It matters if you're going to lose your job. It matters if your income is going down. It matters to business if they're going to be selling fewer cars or fewer televisions. So our entire economy is oriented towards producing more. And a recession is when everything goes wrong and we go in the other direction.
The Eurozone economy fell into recession in the first 3 months of 2023.
New Zealand's economy, it's taken a significant hit, entering a technical recession as its GDP contracted for the second consecutive quarter.
Germany is in recession. Revised figures for the first quarter show the German economy shrank by 0.3%.
For years, we have been using money to make our livings, run our business, meet our day-to-day goals. But what would happen if the value of money we hold declines? Such social upheaving can lead to economic crisis. In simple terms, it can lead to what we call as recession today. So let's jump in and discuss what is recession and what could lead to recession. What is recession? A recession can be a mild decline in economic activity in a single country that lasts for months, or the long-lasting downturn with global ramification that lasts for years or less. What causes recession? This question has long been the subject of heated debate among economists. There are countless variables which contributes to an economy's health, and thus making it difficult to pinpoint the specific cause that could have led the economy to recession. In simple terms, recession occurs when there is a negative reception to the balance between supply and demand. There is a mismatch between how many goods people want to buy and how many products and services producers can offer, and the price of the goods and services sold, which prompts the economic decline. Inflation rate and interest rate are few of the key indicators which will indicate if there is a disruption between supply and demand, like we discussed. Inflation happens when goods and services get more expensive or when value of money decreases. Still, inflation isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, a low inflation rate is thought to encourage the economic activity. But high inflation, which isn't accompanied with high demand, can both cause problem to the economy and eventually lead to recession. Meanwhile, interest rate reflects the cost of taking on debt for individuals and companies. The rate is typically an annual percentage of a loan that borrowers pays to their creditors until loan is repaid. Low interest rate means the companies can afford to borrow more money, which they can use for boost of their business. However, high interest rate increase the cost for producers and consumers, which eventually slowing the economic activity. So it's evident that fluctuation in inflation rate and interest rate can give us insights to the health of economy. What causes these fluctuations? First, the most obvious causes are shocks like natural disaster, war, geopolitical factors. For example, let's talk about 2021 Suez Canal obstruction. What would have happened if the container ship was stuck forever there? As Suez Canal is one of the busiest trade routes, if the block continued, trades would have been significantly slowed, especially the oil trades. This in turn would force the supply side of economy to charge more for the products that uses oil, and discouraging the demand side of economy, potentially prompting for recession. Second, some recession occurs in time of economic prosperity. Some economists believe that business activity from a market expansion can occasionally reach an unsustainable level. For example, corporations and consumers may borrow more money with an assumption that economic growth will help them handle added burden. But if economy doesn't grow as quick as expected, they may end up with more debt than they can manage. To pay it off, they will have to redirect the funds allocated for other activities, which in turn reduce the business activity. Third, psychology and even policy designed to help prevent recession can contribute to a recession. Fear of recession can cause people to pull back their investing and spending. In response, producers might cut the operating cost to cater the decline of demand. And this can lead to a cycle as production cut, eventually lower wages leading to lower demand. To not fall into this cycle and to increase the spending, government and central bank print money and central bank lower the interest rate. Smaller lenders can in turn lower their interest rate, effectively making debt cheaper to boost the spending. But these policies are like double-edged sword and need to be reversed to prevent excessive inflation. This can cause recession if people have become too reliant on cheap debt. Now let's discuss about a recent event of recession in Germany. We all know that Germany is one of the largest economies in Europe and is known for its strong industrial base, exports and manufacturing sector. The German economy can be influenced by both domestic and global factors. The Federal Statistic Agency, Statistics of Germany, announced that its economy contracted by 0.1% between January and March, and in previous quarter contraction was 0.5%. Since the economy shrinked continuously for 2 consecutive quarters, we can categorize that Germany is hit with recession. Please note that recession is not an economic downfall and Germany still have long time to bounce back. We now know that multiple factors such as changes in consumer spending, investment levels, global trade conditions and economic policies can impact the performance of economy. As Germany is heavily reliant on Russian energy, the major contribution for recession in Germany was decline of Russian gas supply after Ukraine, and the events unfolded the repercussions. Germany's inflation rate stood at 7.25% in April, above the euro area's average but below the UK's 5.7%. Higher prices have weighed on household spending on things such as foods, clothing and furniture. Industrial orders are also weaker, reflecting the impact of higher energy prices on business. Despite of all these events, economists around the globe are expecting Germany's growth to get back to its baseline growth over the time slowly. Why is Germany in recession and India is not? We need to first understand that the baseline growth of India and Germany are different. India being a developing country has high scope to grow, and Germany being a developed country has comparatively low scope to grow. Precisely speaking, Germany baseline GDP growth is 2 to 3%, whereas India has a baseline GDP growth of 4 to 7%. What Germany has to do to come out of recession? First, we need to understand the concept of fiscal deficit to know what Germany has to do. A fiscal deficit refers to the situation where government's total expenditure exceeds its total revenue in a given period, typically a year. It represents the shortfall or a gap between the government's spending and its income from the sources such as taxes, fees and other revenues. Now, how fiscal deficit is related to GDP and recession? The relationship between fiscal deficit and GDP is reciprocal. Changes in GDP can affect the fiscal deficit, and fiscal deficit can in turn influence the GDP. During economic downturn or recession, when GDP growth slows down, tax revenue tend to decrease, while government spending on programs such as unemployment benefits may increase. This can lead to an expansion of fiscal deficit. Conversely, during the periods of robust economic growth, higher tax revenue at lower spending can contribute to reducing the fiscal deficit. Data says that Germany has been running in positive fiscal deficit from 2014 until 2020. Although they had to go into fiscal deficit mode from 2020 because of COVID and other global events, they are actively trying to push into positive fiscal deficit. So the point to be noted here is, just like any other country, Germany would have spiked up their GDP and thereby avoid the recession by increasing the fiscal deficit. But they didn't, rather they took a positive fiscal deficit route. The only conclusion we can drive out of these data are being a developed country and being the largest economy in Europe with a below average of baseline growth, Germany don't want to go into fiscal deficit just to boost their GDP and thereby avoid the recession. Should India be concerned about recession? On the contrary, being a developing country, we have a very good baseline growth, and data says that our GDP growth is significant, that the chances of moving us to the recession space is very less. The main point to be noted, unlike Germany, we have been in fiscal deficit since long, and it has helped us in our GDP growth. Although when global economy shrunk during the COVID era and afterwards, India has posted a strong GDP growth because of its expanded fiscal deficit. Now to conclude, this doesn't mean that expanded fiscal deficit is always good for a developing country like India. Please note that debt is good as long as we have a strong cash flow. But more we grow, we have to eventually reduce the debt and focus on growth. Let's keep a close eye and observe how our leaders would lead our country through the chaos of global and political events revolving around us. We reached the end of the video. That's it we have for today. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed our channel yet, please consider subscribing. Let's see you in another video.